What's up everybody, welcome back to another video, 0 Mile ADV, behind the scenes of building my motorcycle brand. Kind of a big update, a lot of lessons learned so far. So with that, let's get into it. Okay, first things first, I think for those of you that haven't been following along, looking back on this, I'm starting a motorcycle apparel company called 0 Mile ADV. And basically my primary goal was I was trying to solve a problem for myself first and then deliver it to the market, and hopefully it solves a problem for everybody else. So I wanted motorcycle apparel that was functional, stylish, and not bulky was the key, because there's a lot of motorcycle apparel that's out there, but it's super bulky, and so you wouldn't wear it every day. Like when you get off the bike, it's a bit of a pain, and sometimes the process of even putting this stuff on is a bit of a pain. But protection is important. And so thinking about some of the current products that are out there, I felt that we could provide a decent level of protection, especially when you're off-road, with fabrics only. So basically some like high level abrasion resistance. Like if you look at a lot of motorcycle jackets, they're just leather. They don't have like armor in them. It's just leather, cowhide leather. And people will hit the ground, you know, especially like Harley riders, if you're not involved in the Harley thing, they will wear chaps in the leather jacket because they can hit the ground at like 60 miles an hour and come out somewhat unscathed. There's a lot of things in there, so don't quote me on that. But and it's not necessarily going to save your life. But my father-in-law actually hit the ground on his bike. I think a deer ran out in front of him at like 65, and he still has the leather jacket that he wrecked in. So there are fabrics and materials that we can use to provide a good level of abrasion resistance. Also, Fort9, which is like a cool motorcycle channel, they did a whole scientific series on like, do armor, so like actual pads, actually make a difference? And that's a whole interesting video, so go check that out. But my goal is there's a lot of company that creates clothing with armor in it, but how do we create clothing that doesn't have armor that you could then add armor later, right? So if I'm going to go on a big long road ride, I'm going to wear maybe my touring jacket, right, from Climb or some of these other major companies that has armor in it, is also abrasion resistant, but I could wear the 0 Mile clothes underneath. So if I start to get hot, I could ditch the jacket in my panniers or just strap it down on the back when I get to the dirt, still have some abrasion resistance. So if I were to come in contact with the ground, hopefully not, although I do wreck a lot, so maybe this is speaking from personal experience, I'll have some abrasion resistance. So that was the overall general goal. I started this project back in August, technically a little bit before, a couple days before, but just for the sake of ease of doing the math, August 2024. So I'm like 5 months into this project. And I think what is unique to this, and I think what I'm also trying to do with this video series about going behind the scenes of a company I'm trying to create, is I actually had a conversation with some of my other team members at another company I run. One of the employees, he's not American and he didn't grow up in America. He's lived in another country, so it's always interesting in his opinion. He's like, yeah, I always seem like Americans are like looking for the next like get rich quick scheme, which I was like definitely a part of for a long time. I was always looking for that like one job or creating that one business that would just make me like instantly rich, like make me a millionaire, right? Now looking back on it, making $1 million a year as a company isn't a whole lot of money on the grand scheme of things. By the time you like are paying employees and what it takes to get there, especially if you're like a service-based business, if you have a products-based business, it might become, you know, probably about the same, because you've got inventory costs, shipping costs, ROI costs, all of the things are not ROI, but like building new products costs, whatever that term is. Leave a comment below, tell me what that R&D, that's what it is, R&D. You know, it's your R&D costs, so you have all those costs. So by the time you get to $1 million, you may have invested, you know, you may be investing back like $600,000 a year. So really your profit is, you know, that's maybe if you're 40% profitable. So if you're 20% profitable, which is pretty good, like especially in one industry that I work in, you're investing $800,000 to make $1 million, right? So by the time you pay salary, that includes salary and stuff and everything. So by the time the company's actually profitable. So what I think is interesting about this is that in this journey, I have now realized that like with my other company that I've been running for 5 years, like sure, we're doing pretty well, but it took a while. Like, we've been running the company for a long time, and there are a lot of things that go into running a company. Now, my primary focus is not money first. I've always been lifestyle first. So I need to have enough money to support my lifestyle, but I think people, purpose, profits, right? So like the people that I leave an impact on is going to far outlive my lifespan than the money or the products or the things I can own, right? So like, I think it's one reason why I have no problem selling motorcycles quickly is because I'm just not tied to possessions. I realize they are very impermanent, very Buddhist saying there, right? Like just the idea of impermanence. And so I'm okay with like moving on from physical things. It doesn't bother me. But the impression that you make on people is lasting. And you can't make a good lasting impression overnight. So those are some key values that are like important to me. And so I know that like with 0 Mile, it's not, I would love it if we could become a $3 to $6 million a year company. I think there is potentially the market share. I think the potential is there to get to like a $6 million a year company, which really isn't that big compared to some of the other brands that are out there. But it's not going to happen overnight. So in my first year, the first year we can do this, it's going to, it's costing a decent amount of money to kind of build this thing up and get started. But, hopefully we'll turn maybe half a million, right? So maybe we can do $500,000 a year in our first year. But for me, sure, that's not a lot of money, and a lot of that's going to go, pretty much all that is going to go into product and kind of refilling the coffers for the investment that went into building this thing and paying people and employees and salaries. And so like, I don't plan on making personally really any money from this thing in the first year. So I kind of have until August next year to maybe I can actually start making somewhat of a salary, maybe $1,000 or $2,000 a month from this thing. So what I think is unique is when I'm looking back on this journey and circling back to where I started, if you're thinking about building a company and you want to do something, like what is important to you? Like, are you very money driven? That is not necessarily a bad thing in my opinion. I think when you hurt people for money, it's a bit of a bad thing. When you take advantage of people for money, that's a bad thing. But for you, if you're doing a good thing, you're providing a good product or service, and you are very driven by making more money, I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. I just have different motivations. I'm much more interested in lifestyle and my impact with other people than I am actual financial gain. And so like, it just depends on like, what spectrum are you on and what are you trying to do? For me, I'm okay at the longer, slower game because really it's a lifestyle thing. I love motorcycles. I love the creativity behind building new products and building new things. So it gives me a creative outlet. It also gives me potentially a financial outlet where I can make enough, supplement my income and make more money. But again, money's not a bad thing in my opinion. It is a necessary evil. But I always put people, purpose first, and then profit or money last. And I think if you focus on those two things, the rest will come. So where I'm going with this is that it has been, for me, it's okay knowing that this hasn't just been a quick 6-month turnaround and now I'm making $1 million a year. And I know like we all hear these stories that it's like influencers on TikTok or whatever turning a big dollar by reselling other stuff or white labeling and that sort of stuff. And that's okay. Again, I think whatever, if you're providing a product or service that is of value to other people and they're willing to exchange their money for it and you're not taking advantage of them, then by all means you should do it. But for me, it is much more about community and lifestyle. And so if this company stays small, but we're having a great time, we're really building people up, giving them an amazing place to work, we're creating amazing products, but we're just a small company, so be it. Totally cool by me. I would much rather make a lasting impression. So where I'm going with all of this today is, so what have I learned from that up till now? So not knowing anything about the apparel process, I've realized, again, if you want to make an apparel company, and now I get a lot of ads for them, I see a lot of ads on social media, and I can definitely tell, having worked with a bunch of manufacturers and looking at samples and all that stuff, which companies are basically just saying like, okay, cool, you're already producing this garment, I'm just going to put my name on it and resell it. And which companies are actually like designing and building their own apparel, because there are a lot of challenges in that. So what are some of the challenges that we've have to overcome or have overcome? I think one that I've talked about a lot is just when you're getting started, you need small minimum quantity orders. Now, luckily, Asan, who has been helping me and basically taking charge and really working closely with a lot of manufacturers, he has a lot of experience and he has a lot of connections. He had no connections in the motorcycle apparel business. So like this has also been a learning process for both of us. And to watch him learn and grow and gain more information using his mind that already has a lot of experience in the apparel industry has been really cool and really awesome to see. But what I see a lot is this drive back to the standard model. So it appears with most of these manufacturers that we've come across, they are basically saying, here's what we can produce, we'll put your name on it, and then you can sell it. But I don't want to do that because I don't want to just white label. Actually, there's like I talked about my whole vision in the beginning, that's what I want to do. I want to do something different. And so in this case, it is hard to, we're basically swimming upstream because now they have to create brand new patterns. They have to source materials, specific colors. That has been a big challenge. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about material sourcing. So one challenge that we've come across is that when you're doing smaller orders, because we want to do a small run first to help generate some cash to then reorder, right? So it's like right now, I'm kind of just burning my own personal cash to get this thing going and all the costs associated with building it. And so it's like we need to then have the company generate enough money in first run of product sales to be able to reorder and make better changes and potentially order or create different fabrics. So in the fabric process, it's very hard when you want to do small orders. So say you want to do 100 pieces or like 50 of one specific item to start, it is very hard because these manufacturers are like, well, I can't buy 50, enough fabric for just 50 garments. I have to buy enough for like 1,000. And so you get stuck in this area where I know I want a specific material, like say I want to use, like I would love to use polyesters instead of cottons. So cottons are very popular. Then it's also interesting. I would love your feedback because again, this is about what you guys want, not necessarily just what I want. Like in our shirts, like our flannel shirts, would you rather have polyester, which is breathable, better abrasion resistance, better moisture wicking? You could technically DWR it or like add a water resistant apparel. Or would you rather have a more organic cotton? Because it seems to be like a lot of people are trying to get away from like these chemicals in their clothes and stuff. So are you more interested in cotton or are you more interested in the actual functionality? For me, I would prefer to have polyester, because nobody's doing it. Everybody's just doing cotton with Kevlar lining and then polyester lining inside of that and then armor, which basically creates a jacket, not a flannel shirt. And so like I actually want to create a shirt that has some abrasion protection without all the bulk. So leave a comment below. Would you rather have cotton or would you rather have polyester? And in that, so now we are having to work within the constraints of like potentially having to go cotton first with getting close to the style, because style is also important. So it's like we need the right material, but then we need the right material with the right look to create the right style and vision for the overall company, right? So very hard to do when you're doing small orders. Now, if we wanted to order 3,000 of these, super easy. We could basically order or produce the fabrics that we want in the color we want, in the run that we want. It becomes a lot easier when you're doing bigger orders. But when you're starting small, you have a limited amount of fabrics and colors to choose from. And so we're definitely kind of battling that right now. The second thing, another interesting thing on fabrics is we're looking to produce a jean that actually looks and feels like a regular comfortable denim jean, but with protection. Now we have come across one of our suppliers and manufacturers. They actually work with a Dutch company called Dyneema. And so let me know if you've heard in the comments below, have you heard of Dyneema? Have you heard anything about it? But basically they are weaving Dyneema into denim, which Dyneema basically is like 10 times or 15 times, or basically has a really high strength rating and abrasion resistance, like stronger than steel. So it is kind of like Kevlar being embedded into the jean so that you don't have to have a double layer pant. You can have a single layer pant. The other unique thing is because we are working in an area that does a lot of denim for like Levi's, actually unique enough, I got to look at some of like Levi's actual patterns and some of their actual like blueprints for clothes that they use. So that was like really eye-opening to make sure that we're on the same track. But like Levi, 7, like a lot of these big jean manufacturers get their jeans made there. So we can get modern washes, because this is a whole other thing that I'm learning about, right? Like with denim is like, not only is it the quality of the fabric or the denim, but then also the wash. Like has the denim been washed properly to give it the right look? So it's like, how close can we get to like a modern, comfortable, good looking denim that is single layer that provides protection? Now also in this we are running into challenges because our patterns have to be different from standard denim. So if we just wanted to produce jeans with Dyneema, it'd be pretty easy, because we could just basically take standard running patterns that are pretty common across most brands, run with those sizing charts and be done with it. But because we want to make an in the boot denim pant, so a boot that would a denim pant that would fit actually inside a motocross boot, and one that will go over a motocross boot so that they're basically work better for off-road, we have to adjust the patterns. And so that also, and then also we need more flexibility and movement in what they call the crotch point of the pant. And so our patterns are completely different. So we're having to create different patterns, different samples. So that's taking longer as well. The nice thing is that we are going to create like a twill pant, but it'll have basically the same pattern. So it's like once we get through the denim, the twill pant should be pretty easy, and we can use materials that are pretty much readily available like Cordura, etc., which create for a good looking cotton or twill pant with a lot of abrasion resistance. So that is one of the kind of major learning things that I've been going through. And one thing that I have to, when I have my meetings every week, is making sure we're staying on track with like, okay, great, like I understand we can just produce this jean with this size chart, but that's not what we want to do. We are trying to create a very unique, single layer, thin protection, fabric only protection, motorcycle garment that is comfortable and stylish and looks good, doesn't look like you just came off the racetrack, that is also comfortable, right? So a lot of things there, and constantly pushing that home, because the easy thing to do is to just say, okay, cool, well, we can produce a standard jean, but then it doesn't have the comfortable, like you don't have the movement, you don't have the right structure to be on a motorcycle for a long time. So that is one of the biggest learning things I've learned, is like material sourcing, pattern sourcing, etc. I've talked a lot about like the accessories, like placing where you place tags or something. The other thing I've learned too is that in denim, the back pocket stitching or the pattern, a lot of times those are trademarked. So you have to come up with your own back pocket pattern unique to your own company. So we've worked on that, which is also unique. And basically we're hoping for a springtime launch. So we're hoping that we should have all of our pre-production samples finished by the end of this month. So a pre-production sample is like what you're trying to create before you go into mass production. And so we can give it the check mark, this looks good, and then produce it, and then hopefully we should have everything, all of our products ready by March. Our general products, like if you want to get if you're interested in a 0 mile hoodie or a t-shirt, or those things are coming. Those were super easy to create, very easy. So if you're interested in getting in the t-shirt business, even cut and sewing your own t-shirts, easier and actually cheaper than just doing like screen printing somewhere else. So that's pretty quick, and those are moving pretty quickly, and we should have those soon. So if you're interested in like kind of like just getting some of the first 0 mile swag, that stuff's on its way. Other big life lessons so far behind building this brand: patience. I know I mentioned that a lot at the beginning, but I think again the biggest thing for me is just patience and understanding that like this isn't going to turn around in 60 days. We aren't just doing white labeling. We are trying to create something from scratch, and just having the patience to know that like every week you're just chipping away at it. It's the next big piece. Also, the other piece too is because sometimes I've talked a lot about the fear of like paralysis through analysis. So like you'll start thinking about all of the things you need and the infrastructure you need to support like $1 million or $6 million business, and how many products it will take to sell to get there, to do those kinds of numbers. So like if I start thinking about like warehouse needs and all of this stuff, it will really bog me down. So I think the other benefit to starting small is that like we can slowly layer in the infrastructure to support and grow a company. I've learned that a lot in my other company. It was like there's so many things I was afraid of, like taxes and all of that stuff, but it's like you just have to get started, and then you slowly start to figure all the other things out and just do your best to do everything above the law, do the best you can to basically do everything by the books, and you will slowly build the infrastructure, and all of those questions become easier, right? So now, because I've hired other employees, like hiring employees for 0 Mile becomes a lot easier because I have all that infrastructure in place, and so I can just copy and paste it into another business, but I need the cash flow to support them, right? So it's like I can slowly build up, get the cash flow to support them, and all the infrastructure kind of I can swing over. So I think if you've never started a business and you're interested, just know that a lot of this stuff comes later. And it's easier to build the infrastructure as you go, and don't get worried about it. It will come, you'll get questions, you'll find people, you'll get the answers. I've gone really long here, so that's where we're at. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for watching another video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, it super helps. I think we're up to like 1,600 subscribers or something, I think, so far. So we're doing pretty good. We crossed 100. We've almost doubled, right? So we've almost hit 2,000, which is super cool. We just really want to build a big community. Also, if you have any ideas or things that you're looking for in motorcycle apparel that's just not available yet, and you're interested if we're going to produce those, love to see those comments below. Thank you to everybody else who's chimed in. And until next time, stay safe out there.